Hey, welcome back to our videos, Math 8. We are done with algebra this year. Can you believe that? All done. We are now going to move on to geometry, and we will be doing geometry for the rest of the school year, if you can believe that. However, because we are focusing on geometry, and this is our first lesson of geometry, we are going to have quite a bit of vocabulary today. So please go ahead and make sure that you find a comfy space. You have all the needed materials you need. Graphing paper is the best for this section. Get yourself in that math frame of mind. So the first thing we want you to do in your notes is go ahead and think what it means to make transformations. If you were told to transform something, think about what that means. Pause the video, take a moment, and list 4 different types of transformations. Well, in case you haven't quite figured it out yet, our next geometry section here is all about transformations. And our transformations, we're going to be learning 4 different types of them. That's why I wanted you to think of 4 different types in the real world. The first one that we're going to learn about is all about translations. That sounds just like transformations. I know, it gets confusing. But the first transformation we are learning about is a translation. We're going to explore some things, you're going to have some address working, and then we're going to discover the math rules and use them. So the first graph that you're going to write on your paper is the one that's down here with the I, R, T in blue, and then the I, the R, and the T in red. And what I would love for you to do is go ahead and copy that on your paper, pause the video, take as much time as you need, and you're going to create 2 lists. That first list are all the things that you notice about these 2 shapes. The next list that you're going to write about is all of the things you still wonder. So again, you're making 2 lists. What do you notice? What do you wonder? Pause the video. Well, the first thing I notice is that I and R and T are at pretty points, and I'm going to go ahead and give them their addresses. So I is at -2, and the Y value for that is 8. R is at +2 with the Y value at 6. And T is at -3 and 3. This blue image is what we call the actual pre-image. It's our pre-image. We also call this the original. So our pre-image is also the original. Well, now we have to deal with what's going on here on the red. The red triangle looks exactly the same. If you were to pick it up and put it right over the blue, it looks exactly the same. And we call this the actual image. And one of the ways I know that this is the actual image is because it has these little parentheses next to the same letters. Those parentheses are called primes. They're called the primes. So if you notice, we said that our I location, or the original, or the pre-image I location, is at that -2, 8. Well, the I prime, so we call that little parenthesis there prime, the I prime location is at 4, 4. The R prime location is at 8, 2. And the T prime location is at 3, -1. So let's look at that for a second. What has happened? What has happened in our movement? Well, if I look at -2, which is that X value for my pre-image on I, and I look at that +4 on my I prime, how far over did it move? Now I can add those together and figure it out, right? And I could make that movement say 6. But what I like to do, because we have the graph, I like to go ahead and count. It moved from this point, and it moved left or right, because x's move left or right, and it moved right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. I moved 6 places over to the right. That 6 is a positive because it moved in the positive direction. So I went from that -2 all the way to that 4 by adding 6. If I didn't add 6, I could not get there. Okay, so let's do that again with the y values. If I start with my y value right there at 8, and I'm going to go to my prime at 4, the movement I have to make goes down 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And by going down, that means I'm going negative. So I'm moving the y place 4 down. So we can write this as a rule. And the way we write this movement as a rule is we're saying that any x, y coordinate means that I am going to take that x coordinate, I'm going to add 6, and I'm going to take that y coordinate, and I'm going to add or subtract 4. And I should get the next point. So let's use this rule and see. I have 2, I'm going to add 6, yep, I get 8. I have 6, I'm going to subtract 4, yep, I get 2. This is working. If I need to move from -3 all the way to +3 on a number line, I would end up moving 6 places. Yep, so it goes 6. And if I were to move from +3 to -1, I would move 4 places. So the name of this kind of rule, the name of what we are doing here, where we are picking up the blue pre-image and we're setting it down at a different spot as our prime or our image, we call this a translation. I would love for you to take the information I just gave you and write a definition. What does translation mean? Pause the video and go ahead and do that. Okay, well now we're going to practice with the rule first, and then we're just going to do what the rule tells us to do. So this says to translate this original figure 6 units to the right and 2 units up. We need to label the pre-image points, and we need to label the prime or the image points. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to draw this in my graph. Okay, now that you have it drawn, let's do the next thing that it tells us to do. The next thing it tells us to do is to go ahead and label the pre-image points. So I'm not going to be very awesome here, and I'm just going to say B-I-R-D because I'm looking at these birds, and bird is a 4-letter word. So now I'm going to use what it tells us to do. It says take these pre-image points and we're going to use or move them 6 units to the right. Well, 6 units to the right is in the right direction, so I know it's positive. So I'm going to move every point 6 points to the right. And then I have to move them 2 points up. Well, if I move 2 points up, that means I have to add 2 points. So I'm going to take these original points here, like the I, and I'm going to do what it says. I'm going to move it to the right 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then I have to move it up 2. 1, 2. When I get there, I'm going to mark that point, and I'm going to label it the prime. So I will label it as I prime. Remember that parenthesis means prime. Well, I have 3 more points, so I'm going to count again and do the exact same thing. From B, counting 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up 2. 1, 2. This now is my B prime, and I can connect those points. All right, here we go. We're going to do R now. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up to 1, 2. I'm going to label it R prime because this is my image, and I can connect those points. Finally, I can count the D's location over. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up to 1, 2. And again, I'm going to label that D prime. I can connect those points, and I can connect those points. So what I have done is I have taken this original figure, my original trapezoid that I labeled bird. I legitimately picked it up and moved the whole thing over point by point. I moved it to the right 6 and up 2. So the rule that I used is I took any x, y coordinates and I moved, so that arrow means moved, those x coordinates I added 6 and those y coordinates I added 2. That's my rule that shows my translation. Now I like to think of translation as I'm sliding. I'm sliding my graph over a direction left or right, and then I'm sliding my graph up or down. So for me, translation means slide. While you are looking at this next one, go ahead and pause the video again, rewrite it, draw it on your paper, make your graph nice and neat. Pause the video. Okay, now that you have it drawn in, which is the pre-image? What is our pre-image? Well, our pre-image are the points that do not have the primes. So our pre-image is the triangle A, B, C. Then what is my image? Well, if my image is not blue, it's going to be the green shape. And we know it's the image because it has our prime there. Our prime is attached to all of our points. So our image is the triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So remember those parentheses there, those are called primes. So now just looking at this, can you tell me what the rule is? We're going to look at it and we're going to say what the rule is. Remember, we're going to take any x, y coordinate and slide it. How are we going to slide it? Well, let's look and see. From A, I'm sliding it over to the right. So again, I'm sliding it in a positive direction. So I have an x plus something, and I'm sliding it over 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Ooh. So I have x plus 4. So then my y values means how much am I going up or down? And I'm going up, and because I'm going up, again, it's positive, and I'm just counting here. I'm going up 1. So it's plus 1. My question becomes, what happens if I translate the prime figure? Wait. What that means is, what happens if I slide the translated figure to another place? Well, let's find out. Our A prime location is at 0, 3. Our B prime location is at 4, 0. And our C prime location is at 2, negative 2. What I would love for you to do is to take each of those points, minus 3 from the x values, add 4 to the next y values, and tell me what you think your solution is. Pause the video and do that right now. All right, hopefully you did the math right and you followed the signs correctly and you got the same answers I did. I went ahead and I plotted those points. So now what the heck do I do to write them? Well, now this red triangle is now the A prime's prime. What? That means my A prime became my pre-image and my red became my image of the green. Okay, so again, I translated it from blue to green, that's 1 prime. From green to red, that's 2 primes because I did it twice. So I'm going to call the